Good morning. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church on Zoom. My name is Catherine Osborne, and I am your worship associate today. I am joined by Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, and welcoming you this morning. We're also joined by our wonderful choir, you'll see a little later on, digitally, and also Joe and Jolene Ibanez on some other music too. Reverend Judy, our Director of Religious Education, did a marvelous class for the children earlier this morning, and she'll offer one for our youth after the service. Okay, now for Zoom life etiquette. Remember that your video is on, others can see you. We have you all on mute, and don't worry, you won't accidentally unmute yourself. I would like to invite you to open the chat box, and if you haven't already, say hello this morning. There, you're welcome to communicate in the chat throughout the service. If you want to become more familiar with Zoom, contact our OCUUC Geek Squad, and they'll do some training with you after the service or later this week. You can send an email to geeksquad@ocuuc.org. I want to also invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea if you don't have one already. Bring a chalice to light or a candle to light in solidarity for a ritual of joys and sorrows. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have a covenant. It's simply a promise that wherever our paths may lead, we will walk them together. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we're committed to creating a welcoming community without regards to traits that sometimes divide people, even the physical distancing. I'd like to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you'll find it here. Most of what you need to follow on the service will be on the slideshow on the screen, right in front of you. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalist tradition. If you have one at home, we can light them together. We encourage you to say our unison affirmation even in the privacy of your own home, knowing that people all over this county and beyond are saying it with you. So let our worship begin with the lighting of the chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of the church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. There's been an explosion of creativity in these last couple of weeks out of necessity. A bunch of musicians have written parodies and new lyrics to songs, including this one and another one you're going to hear later on today. This is by Unitarian Universalist Amanda Udis Kessler, and it expresses how we feel in this moment, in this strange situation we find ourselves in. It's to the tune of Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, which some of you may know. Sing with me. We are gathered in the Spirit, though our bodies are apart, filled with joy and touched with wonder, separate hands but mingled hearts, giving thanks and singing praises. Through the love there goes the sun. From our many different places, we are gathered into one. We are gathered in our sorrow, we are gathered in our fear, in our pain and in our worry, in our anger and our tears, as we turn to one another with our gifts and with our care. Our community is strengthened through the faith and hope we share. We are gathered in commitment to a planet that is whole. Works of justice, acts of kindness, bless the world and heal our souls. As our voices join together, may our song of peace resound. May we offer in abundance
So this morning, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to invite Ginny to turn off file sharing for a moment so we can see each other's faces, because I want to do the blessing of the faces. So many beautiful faces, so many radiant souls shining forth into our hearts. Look at those eyes, the smiles, the hopes, the fears, the yearnings, the questioning, the compassion, the love. Take it in, take it all in, the tenderness, the humanity, the blessing of faces arrayed before you. The blessing of faces have been given and received. And our choir, magically combined by Andres Trivino, has blessed us with their talents this morning.
Make us where we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us where we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew.
How awesome was that? Here's how you can clap. You can raise your hands like this. Oh, thank you all for doing that. That was really fun. Well, I want to start out our service after all this wonderful music with a reading. It's a reading by a rabbi. It was written back in the 1970s, I think it was. So here's the reading. He says, "It was past midnight. I was walking through the deserted city to my hotel on the other side of the river. The night was dark and foggy, and I couldn't get a taxi. As I approached the bridge, I noticed a shabby figure leaning over the parapet. A down and out, I thought. Then he disappeared. Oh my God, I thought it. He's done it. I heard a splash. Suicide. I ran back under the bridge onto the embankment and waded into the river, grabbing him as he came past, borne by the current. I dragged him up onto the embankment. He was quite a young guy, strong, I think, and he was still breathing. A couple of people noticed, and I shouted for them to get an ambulance. They managed to stop a taxi, and between us, we half dragged, half carried the man to the vehicle. I got in and told the driver to take us to the nearest hospital emergency room. I waited until the man was admitted, gave my report to the police, and only much later got a taxi back to my hotel. I had ruined a good suit, and I knew I would have a terrible cold in the morning. I could feel it coming on. But anyway, I had saved a life. I had a hot bath and I got into bed, but it still worried me. Such a young man, why had he done such a thing? The next morning, as soon as I was free, I set off for the hospital. I was determined to find out what was behind this matter. Maybe I could help. Why was I so interested in this guy? In this great city of London, there were at least half a dozen would-be suicides every night. Their plight did not touch me. Then it dawned on me, of course. First you give, then you care. I had given quite a lot. I had risked my life and gotten a bad cold in the bargain. I have invested something of myself in that man. Now my love and care were aroused. That's how it goes. First we give, then we love. First we give, then we love. Is he right? It seems a little sort of countercultural. First we give, then we love. In our capitalistic sort of Western way of seeing things or thinking about things, right? We first have to care about something before we give to it. We say things like, you get what you pay for, or, there's no free lunches. We as a society tends toward this in kind of a, what's in it for me kind of mindset. And yet, we're seeing right now in the world, the rabbi's words are coming true, right? Because we're giving right now, we're giving to strangers. We who are staying at home, sacrificing our jobs, our way of life. For some of us, it feels like our sanity. It isn't just about me, but it's about we. It's an act of love for those we know and for those we don't know, the stranger. And of course, many of us are worried about ourselves, but when I talk to people, and I've talked to a lot of people the last few weeks, most of the worry is about those that they love, or even just worried about spreading it to others. So I think that this question of, do we give and then we love, or do we love and then we give, is kind of not really actually the point of his story. Rather, the point of his story to me is more about this interesting connection that we humans, that we have for one another, that I think it's an innate to us. It's the sense that our destinies are bound up in one another, that we are interdependent to one another. Right, and you see our seventh principle on the screen there, and asks us to respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And I think that never has that interdependent web been so obvious as it is right now. If we truly had that, look out for number one attitude, wouldn't then all the healthcare workers go home? If it was just about me, like I'm healthy, I'm not immunocompromised, I could just go out and do whatever. But it doesn't even occur to me to do that. I don't want to infect anybody else. I don't want to get it myself, but I really don't want to infect anybody else. Now, I don't know if you're aware, I haven't seen it so much in the news lately, but last week, I remember it was in the news, there was this kind of interesting moral dilemma that people were playing with. And the moral dilemma was this: do we sacrifice the economy and the economic stability of so many, or do we sacrifice people and allow our healthcare system to get overwhelmed and people to die and die needlessly? In other words, people were asking, is the cure worse than the disease? And what's interesting is that debate didn't last very long. We've kind of answered it. Why are we willing to sacrifice so much right now as a human species around the world? Because, for example, when you think about it, okay, so I found these statistics, we have about 40,000 deaths per year in the US by car accidents, 40,000 deaths. And there's about another 2 million that occur that require hospitalization, okay? If we all drove right now at 15, 20 miles an hour, that would solve the problem. But we don't. We don't really even get that upset about it. I mean, we just sort of think, well, that's, part of life, right? So why now are we willing to make all these sacrifices so that we can save lives? And the answer is because we can. And that sounds sort of odd, but we can. In other words, there's an immediacy to this that happens when we know that we can do something. Because there's this inherent part of us as human beings that says, when I see someone in trouble, I want to help. The vast majority of us feel that way. We feel connected because we want to help. It's the same reasoning everybody gets so excited, if you remember years ago, about the child that fell down a well, and the entire world rallied around this child down the well. right? And yet we also know that children die of poverty and hunger around the world on a daily basis. And some people said, oh, well, this is hypocrisy. It's like, no, it's not. It's part of human nature. The reason we react so lovingly when a crisis happens is that we know it's immediate. We know it's fixable and that we can make a difference, and we can all make a difference now. And that's part of what it means to be human. It's part of our DNA. I think that we can help one another. When we know we can make a difference, save lives, help people, we human beings, generally speaking, are an incredibly generous lot. People are staying at home if they can. Others are on the front lines working in medical care, grocery stores, keeping the internet up and running, all of those things. And we could not do this without one another, right? None of us would happen unless each of us are doing our part. It's like the world is recognizing that we are part of this interdependent web of all existence. And it almost feels like a little bit like the first time. You know, most of the time when we think about the seventh principle, we think about it as applying to our environment. But it's more that. It's actually a really radical message that we don't acknowledge very often. We don't really live it out because we can think about ourselves. We don't have these crises that happen all the time. And in fact, I don't know of a single religion that has a similar tenet or belief to it. Not one. I know there's Ubuntu theology, which is a Christian African theology, which says that we're connected. But other than that, I have not found any other religion that really recognizes this interdependent way. It's like the most radical countercultural message we can offer as a religion may not actually be a lot of our social justice messages, which are absolutely fabulous, but maybe the most radical countercultural message may be the affirmation of our interdependence, which asks us not what's in it for me, but what's in it for us. So I'd like you to just take a moment to take that in and to think about how this world is becoming more and more interdependent with one another and the ways that we're doing it. Think about all the ways strangers even are helping one another right now and living examples of our interdependence. And I'd like to invite you to write in the chat things the way that you can see that people are doing this in a sort of a spirit of meditation. And as Beth sings, or as our choir sings one more time, I invite you to, what are the ways in which you experience interdependence in our wider world?
Make us aware we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew.
Yeah, I'm loving reading these things, helping neighbors. Honeybees, I love it, Lanchi. Yes, honeybees we're interdependent with honeybees too. People are checking in on neighbors, family Zoom gatherings, making sure that we're all set up, the clean air that's going on out there. People are making masks and giving them away. All sorts of ways that we are interdependent with one another. You know, our destinies are bound up in one another. We try to live that out here in our church too. You know, most people here, they volunteer in some shape or form, whether it's as an usher, as a board member, teaching someone about Zoom. And of course, we all support it financially as we are able. But I think that this bound up thing, it goes even just deeper than that. There are interconnections and interdependencies going on that most of us don't see, or maybe you don't even think about that much, like about how it works. So let me tell you a little story that happened just this last week. It's a rather anger-invoking story, at least initially, until I looked at it another viewpoints, thought it was really beautiful. So if you recall last week, if you were watching your emails, I sent out an email that there were phishing emails going out. Now, phishing emails, spelled PH, not with an F. Phishing emails are things when scammers try to create an email that pretends to come from someone that you know, and they're asking for money. So in this case, these scammers had created an email and sent it. It looked like it came from me. And they sent it to some people in the congregation and asked them to buy some gift cards on eBay, saying that it was from me, that I needed gift cards immediately to help some cancer patients. And if the person could also rub off the numbers and send it to them in an email. Now, many people emailed me that they got these phishing emails and they knew that it wasn't from me. 2 people almost got scammed. One was on her way out to buy the cards when she called me going, maybe I should just check in with Reverend Sean. So glad she didn't. The second actually bought the cards, but didn't send them because, again, got a little suspicious and called me. And he said he's just going to use the eBay gift cards for his own use now. The third person, and she's okay with me giving her name, Marcia, went out, got the cards, and sent them to the scammers. But luckily, she also had my cell number, and they were kind of pushy. They were like, we haven't received this yet, could you please send it to it? So she actually took pictures of them and sent me a text with all the pictures of the numbers. And I immediately, as soon as I got that, the phone was sitting right next to me, and I was like, oh no, Marcia. So I immediately called her. I'm like, no, Marcia, it wasn't me. And we talked about it and, trying to get a hold of eBay. But basically what happened was she was first very mortified, but with the help of a neighbor, she managed to use most of the money, most of it, she got about $400 of it, herself on eBay. So go Marcia, she got the scammers back. I was like, yes. Now, initially, I got to tell you, I was just livid at these scammers. I was so angry. I'm calling my sister and my colleagues, and I'm like, I never swear, okay? I'm dropping F-bomb. I'm like, how dare they take advantage of my people? I was so angry about it. Then I got kind of thinking about it, and I thought, wow, what an incredible act of love from each of these people. Like, here they're thinking, our world is in crisis. People in our church need some help. My minister needs my help. Of course I'm going to help. They didn't even hesitate. I'm like, wow, that's amazing to me. That's absolutely amazing. I get kind of verklempt every time I think about it. And did you know that when we had to go into lockdown and I was starting to call people, the number one thing that people volunteered to do right now was to make phone calls. Everyone was thinking about everyone else. We're like, oh, how are we going to get everybody online? How are we going to do this? And of course, we're concerned for ourselves. It's not an either or, but that impulse to want to help and knowing what they can do to help, it's this powerful impulse that we have. And each of you are part of this amazing church. I'd like you to take a moment again also to think about all the ways here at church that we are interdependent with one another. Maybe, I think you'd think for a few months in silence to think about the ways that this church has helped others. Either people in the church, maybe it was you who got helped, or maybe helped other people in the wider community. And if you feel so inclined, I invite you to type them into the chat. As you're considering this, again, our wonderful choir is going to sing.
Make us where we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through, with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew. Make us where we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through, with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew.
Wow, I'm reading these and I'm getting kind of, wow. Look at all that love in there. Meg's friendship keeps my spirits up when they get low, says Valerie. Covenant groups. Heather says that Bertie kept her from being homeless back in 2012. People buying groceries for one another. The music and choir have been healing for me. Meg's circle suppers. Friendship. Yeah. This church rocks. This church just rocks. You know, each week here in our service, we talk about this radical countercultural interdependence every single week. Well, actually, we sing about our interdependence. We sing it it's after our offertory, right? We sing, we gather together, we gather as one for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share. That right there is our interdependence at work. We give from our hearts. All the ways that we give. That's what I've been seeing in this crisis is people have been giving from their hearts. This impulse of generosity, giving from the heart, comes about often when we know there's an immediate need, when we know that what we can do can make a difference in someone's lives. It's hard sometimes to see that all our actions, all our acts of generosity, not just in times of crisis, all of them support the countercultural way of interdependence. And of course, our pledge drive is kicking off right now, and that's a huge part of our interdependence. I want to invite you this year to give from your hearts. I mean, you know, if obligation and duty, you know, work for you, go for it, but I'd rather you give from your heart. Give from that place of love, that countercultural impulses that recognizes that we're all in this together, and together we're going to get through it. Because that's how we are a living sanctuary, right? As our choir's been singing to us, and you are all loved right through. Here we are in this time of crisis, building a new kind of sanctuary with one another. Here online, reaching out to one another, and we need everyone to give from the heart in whatever way that you can. So I want to have a little fun ritual with you this morning. So basically what I want to do is if you haven't turned on your video, or if you haven't turned off, I invite you to turn your video on for this. And I'm going to ask Ginny to stop the sharing. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, this will be kind of fun, is reach out your hands. Like we're going to create a gathering of people so we can see all of our hands being clasped together across the screens. So so it looks like we're actually reaching out to one another across our individual screens here. All right, imagine that you're clasping the hands of the person next to you. I love this, this is awesome. If you're on audio only, then you can just imagine linking our hands bound across the county, bound together across the country. And as we clasp our hands with one another across this space through the internet, let it remind us that we're all in this together and that we need one another. These hands are full of love. I invite you to imagine sending it out to everyone here, all that love, and out to the wider world. And as you imagine these hands together, I offer you this invitation. If you're proud of this church, become its advocate. If you love the people, reach out and tell them. If you want it to thrive, give from the heart. This church's destiny rests in your hands, all of these hands right here. I love you all. Let us sing.
We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole wide world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the healthcare workers in our hands. We've got the healthcare workers in our hands. We've got the healthcare workers in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the teachers and the students in our hands. We've got the teachers and the students in our hands. We've got the teachers and the students in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the store clerks and the drivers in our hands. We've got the store clerks and the drivers in our hands. We've got the store clerks and the drivers in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the health of each person in our hands. We've got the health of each person in our hands. We've got the health of each person in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got our precious congregation in our hands. We've got our precious congregation in our hands. We've got our precious congregation in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting the Orange County Justice Fund, which was founded in 2017 by a coalition of immigration law professors, attorneys, and grassroots organizers in Orange County. The purpose of OCJF is to increase access to lawyers for detained immigrants facing deportation and to establish an immigrant bond fund to provide support so that individuals eligible to be released from detention can do so without being financially devastated. In less than 1 year of operation, OCJF's bond fund has paid for all or part of the immigration bond for 30 people as of early January 2020. There are now two ways in which you could give online. The first is through our website, www.ocuuc.org, or through an app called Give Plus. You can download it on the App Store for your smartphone, and once set up, you could use it for any of your online giving, including your pledge. As always, thank you for your generosity as the offering is given and received.
When the night has come
So it is that time of year. As I mentioned, this is our pledge drive. And so we are actually launching it this week. I don't know about you, but I got my pledge card. Where did I put it? I have my pledge card. I have it here. So just want you to know that we are launching it, and you'll be hearing from wonderful people. I'll say a little bit more during announcements. But because it's also our pledge drive, we also have a wonderful testimonial from you, from Linda Clough.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for having supported the church for these last 40 years since I was a member. I can't imagine what it would have been like to decide that I wanted to come back to the church and find that it wasn't here. So thank you. I first found Unitarian Church in Billerica. It was called the First Parish Church of Billerica, and it was the main church in town. My husband and I had just moved to our first owned home, and I was pregnant with my second baby. And although we were what I would suppose would be called an agnostic or an atheist or a freethinker or humanist or something, we realized that there was only, we didn't know hardly anybody in that community, and so we thought that maybe a church would be a good place to meet people, seeing neither one of us were bar drinkers, and besides we had a baby and I was pregnant and all that stuff. So we found that church in 1961, and at the very first service that we went to after the church, we went down to the basement in the church, and the pastor was telling a slightly off-color joke. The punchline was the First Unitarian Church of Kennebunk, Maine. Maybe some of you have heard that joke. And we were blown away, not only by the service, which I don't remember. I'm sorry, Sean, but by the people, and frankly by that joke. So we joined that church and became supporters of that church. In 1964, we moved to Orange County, and even before we looked for the maternity ward and a house, we looked for this church and found it, and over on Victoria, and we were just accepted. We were loved. We were brought in, and for I think about 11 or 12 years, we were very, very active in that church, in this church. And my husband was president of the board, and I was secretary for the minister for several years. I used to turn out the reach and the orders of service on a Gestetner machine. Some of you may remember that machine. And so we were very much involved with the church for several years. And then I drifted away. We had our other activities, other things we were doing, and we stopped coming to the church. And in 2018, I decided that I wanted to expand my community. I am very, very active in AA. I'm very active in 2 not-for-profit organizations. I have a large family. I have 3 children and 3 stepchildren and 14 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, and some of whom live around here. So it isn't as if I didn't have a life, but I realized that I wanted to expand my community into another area, and the church came to mind. I came back and I was welcomed by all of you, and I thank you for that. I have been a contributing member for the last 2 years. I intend to increase my contribution this year because it's important. Especially now. It's so important now to me to have all of you and the connection that I have with you on Zoom and email and messages and all the different kinds of connections that we have these days. And not only is it important for us who already belong, but remember that there are people being born today who are going to need this church when they grow up or when they're teenagers. And then there are people like me who wander away and maybe come back. And we need to be here. We need to be strong, and we need to have all of the facilities and all of the services that people need in a church community. I am so grateful to all of you for being here after all of my years away, and I look forward to a vigorous community this year under all these different odd circumstances. But you know, we really can make a difference. We really can change lives with what we give. Thank you.
And now we're going to sing our song that we always sing after the offering, except this week, especially for this Canvas period, Stacy Smith, our own Stacy Smith, who wrote the lyrics to our original chant that we always sing every Sunday. She wrote 3 more verses just for today. So I hope you enjoy Stacy's new words. We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share. We're in this together, united as one, interconnected when the day is done. And when we all give for each other's sake, what a big difference we can make. We're stronger together, we're stronger as one, as we share our gifts with everyone. And when we all act benevolently, our love will reveal a world of peace. When we rise together, we rise up as one. Speak truth through power for those who have none. Working together because we know that no one walks this path alone. Yay, Stacy.
Oh, thank you, Stacy. That was beautiful. I love it. That's like a whole new hymn we could do. You can put that out to the UU world. That's really awesome. Well done. All right. Well, now is that time in our service, our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. And you are invited, one and all, members, friends, visitors, everyone, to participate in this. And this it's a way of just honoring what you're holding in your heart. Something that's profound that maybe you've brought with you in the last days, weeks, or hours. And what I'd like to do is invite you, if you'd like to share it, to go ahead and put it in the chat if you would like. I'd also like to invite you to get a candle and light it if you would like as well. I've got some candles here in my little drawer over here. I'm gonna get those out. There we go. I've got my candle now. And as we do, I will read them out loud. I've got some that were sent to me as well, and Beth is gonna play in the background, and I'll read also any of those that show up in chat. If I miss yours, I apologize in advance. I know that some people are faster typing than others, but I will make sure that we acknowledge everyone as much as possible. So please join me in this ritual of joys and sorrows. So Ralph Haller sent in one who says a candle of gratitude and thanks for Lori Kluge for continuing their Thursday depression groups. He's really grateful to have that. And Marcia Hackett did a candle of concern for everyone. I'm sure you can be aware she's very concerned about those scams, and she wants you all to know that she would like you all to just be informed and be aware that I will never ask you for money via email, and be wise like she is. If in doubt, just tell me. Adam Goldman lit a candle of sorrow because his stepmother of 39 years, Elizabeth, she passed away, 78 years old. Judith Stamper asked for a candle to send healing energy to her father. He has tested positive for COVID-19, although he doesn't have any symptoms yet. His nursing home roommate died of the virus on Friday. I see there's a bunch in here as well. Scott is so happy being able to reach out across the country with this technology. We're happy with that too, Scott. It's great to see you. Beth says our son is in a residential treatment center in Nevada. About half of the patients and a few staff members there have tested positive for COVID-19. Joey so far has tested negative, but it's creating a chaotic and scary situation for everyone. Oh my goodness. Wow. Rika has a joy that she finished her last intensive class for seminary this last Friday. This Friday is coming Friday. Yay. And Sue says, wishing everyone all the very best in our sheltered lives. Rika also, though, is sad that her graduation was canceled. I think she's not alone in that. Carolina, she says she's joyful for the quality time at home with her family. And then also she's sad about family. Oh, though Jacques says Carolina ditto. He was just going to say that. I'm glad everybody loves the quality time with their family. Linda Clough has love for her daughter, Valerie, wherever she may be. Darlene is joyful that we can all still connect. Corey is excited that the men's renewal is going to be on a Zoom conference, so look out for that. And she is joy for her landlord who cooks dinner for his tenants every night. Wow, I want that landlord. Wow. Linda and Craig offer peace to Bill Withers, who passed away this week. He's the one who did lean on me. And Tatiana says, I'm so grateful for your prayers and healing thoughts toward for her husband's cousin Artie. Artie's off the ventilator and came home yesterday. Hopefully he will beat COVID-19. Jeff and Yules, we're so grateful for this congregation and companionship that we've experienced, especially last night having an impromptu game, Card Against Humanity online game. Very cool, nice. And Susan Thomas asked for protection and love for her daughter's partner, Sarah, who's a healthcare worker screening the homeless for COVID in Chicago. Wow. Deborah, I'm right there with you. Thankful for minister, staff, board, choir, and all the members who've jumped in to keep our church thriving at the time. Hallelujah. And Alan has a joy, says, for my brother who's recovering from the virus, made him very weak for 1.5 weeks. My sister-in-law now has a much milder case. Oh, I'm glad he's okay. And Peggy says, my 2 sons in Virginia have been running low fevers for the past week, but otherwise feel okay. Concerned but hopeful. Dave says, loves and prayers for everyone. Look at all this wonderful gratitude and all the different ways that we're doing things. Dave, candle of joy and relief to celebrate his son Eric's, the UU minister in Kenosha, Wisconsin. If you remember the joy and sorrow from last week, is in full recovery from a mild coronavirus attack last week. Yay. I know, I really like singing along too, Robin. And Sarah Jones has grateful for Bean as a new baby bunny who's adopted us with all the cats and dogs. I love it. Oh, everyone, all that love. All that love. So let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations, all the hurts and sadness, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. Let all of these moments remind us that we are not alone. And we have a special prayer for you this morning, sung by Beth, and we can all sing along. I think we know this one.
This is to honor the life of Bill Withers, who wrote this song, and our prayer for each other. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
All right, let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The most important feature of this congregation is the people who make up this community. As Unitarian Universalists, we embrace diversity of thought and person, and so we build the beloved community. When we gather together, virtually or otherwise, it makes all the difference. So, before you leave the service, write us a comment in the chat area and share something you appreciated about today's service. And if you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to write in the chat your name and where you're from. If you'd like to know more about our church, please see our church website for ways you can get involved and sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. If you'd like to know more about membership, please contact us at membership@ocuuc.org. Our community is enriched by its visitors, guests, and friends, and we hope that they find a spiritual home here. If anyone has a question about Unitarian Universalism or how to get involved, please contact Reverend Sean at minister@ocuuc.org. She can assist you in connecting to the congregation. We want everyone to feel a part of this community despite our physical distancing, so please reach out and we'll extend our hands back to you.
So of course, we've got lots of announcements, things going on. The main thing that I want to remind you about is that we are in the middle of our pledge drive. We are going to put the capital campaign on hold for right now, and we'll get back to doing the field trips to Gloria Day and the small group dinners, all that sort of thing, once things sort of get back to normal, as it were. So, but we are going ahead with the operating pledge drive so that we can budget and plan for our next fiscal year, which begins July 1st. So we need everybody to let us know what you're able to do now and to give from that heart place. Pledge packets have been sent out, as I mentioned. Please send and return it, and you'll notice that the return address is to Sandy Martin, and that's deliberate, so that's not a scam. That's deliberate. Sandy and Dawn Martin are heading, well, Sandy's really heading, Dawn is her assistant. Sandy is heading the annual pledge drive, and so we're just having the cards go directly to her house, which will just be easier for everyone if that can happen, and healthier too. So just go ahead, and so just want to make you aware of that. And also that you can also just pledge on the website as well. If you go under, look at where it says giving or sports, something like that, and then you'll see something where it says pledge, and that's where you can do that. So it'd be wonderful if you can do that. The other thing I want to let you all know about is my wonderful twin sister, who is the quilter, has made a bunch of masks. Not a whole lot of them, so I've got about 18 of them left. I've been giving them out to a few people in the congregation. If you would like a mask, if you don't have anyone who can make you one and you would like one, let me know. I will make sure then to get these to you. I'll drive them by and put them in a little baggie for you. They're in plastic. My sister washed them. If we have a large number of people who need them, then my sister will make some more. So by all means, just email me. That's the best way to let me know that you would like a mask, and then I'll drop it by for you. So there you go. So we've got masks. You all are wonderful. I love you all. Let's sing our benediction.
Join me. Be safe, be well. You mean the world to me. Be safe, be well. You mean the world to me. One more time. Be safe, be well. You mean the world to me. Be safe, be well. You mean the world to me.
This service is over. Let our service continue.